welcome back to another episode of Survive to Thrive. I'm Kate McKay. Today, I will be interviewing someone that is very near and dear to my heart that I haven't talked to in a long time, and that is Michele Mere. Welcome, Michele.
Oh, thanks, Kate. I'm so excited to be here. This will be fun.
I'm super excited.
Yeah, it's been too long.
I'm going to read your bio, and this is what I do. I put the glasses on and read it,
Okay.
and then obviously we'll chat about our own experience, how we know each other. So Michele is a decisive, driven, and committed entrepreneur who helps successful business owners expand, duplicate, or sell their companies and make big profits using her business valuation and consulting skills. She is a serial entrepreneur who knows how it feels to fail miserably, and I do, at business. At one time, the bank called demanding their $1.5 million and knows how it feels to sign that contract to sell her company for $9 million. And we're going to be discussing how to find a business opportunity in this time. Like, why not, right?
Yeah, this is kind of crazy.
Yeah, right. And exactly like what we're talking about, how this is the opportunity for people to rise up. And again, not just survive, but thrive.
Yeah.
So, welcome.
Absolutely. I'm so excited. It has been way too long since we have talked last. So this will be a lot of fun.
I know. I'm excited. So I know Michele because I don't even remember where we met originally, but I had her, she was my coach. Yeah. So every great coach has a coach. You know, when I ever heard that Oprah had like 5, I was like, all right, you know, your fitness coach and your trainer. I consider my therapist a coach too, by the way. So let's up with you. What's happening? How I'm dealing with this crazy time. We're April 27.
Yeah,
it's going on down in Texas.
It's interesting. You know, a couple of things for you, a little for me, is that I already worked from home. Right. So being home every day, that part is not anything different. What I got to deal with was my kids all of a sudden being home and them losing their jobs and being laid off because of this and trying to figure out how to get them money in the door. And then, and for me, it was my clients all of a sudden freaking out because were they going to have money coming in and how do we get all that? How do we get that taken care of? So it actually started a lot of really great conversations, which is what started the conversation here about for me and you on what do we do differently? What does it look like to be in business during these crazy times we're living in right now? And what's it going to look like after? It's going to be interesting.
Right. And I think that's such an important thing. It's not just, so much in social media and such as like, this is how you manage when you're at home and keeping your schedule and setting daily habits and how to stay healthy and nutrition, all those things. Clearly super important. But the really important thing where we have to start thinking about is, what are the conversations going to be like as we move through and reinvent ourselves into this new world? Because viewers, this is a new world. There is opportunity, but there is absolutely a new world. And through every wonderful transformation is usually quite a dark spot in front of that. So being courageous enough. So how would you suggest, Michele, that people deal with fear? Because isn't that a consistent thing that you're hearing and feeling and sensing?
I do. I hear a lot of people who are afraid. And so I'm the big logical thinker. I just want you guys to know that. So I immediately, when I start hearing people say, all of the fear talk I'm looking for 2 things. Is it fact or is it fiction? And if it is not absolute fact, if everyone in the world doesn't agree with it, it's not fact. Right. And so I am that person who stops people and says, okay, let's think about this. Let's look at this and determine whether we are just afraid of something that might occur, or is this something, obviously COVID-19 for us right now, as we speak, is what we're dealing with. A lot of people are dealing with it. Right. But a lot of people who thought that they were completely done. I'll give you a great example. One of my really dear friends and a current client of mine is she's a holistic doctor. And she was just kind of getting her new practice rolling. And all of a sudden now she can't see clients. And she is one of those people that wanted to see clients knee to knee. If she can't, touch you, hug you, feel you, then can she really help you? And I had been telling her, oh my gosh, I know at least 12 months. I've known this woman for 20 years. For at least a solid year, I've been saying, look, there's so much you could do if you would start having consultations with people on the computer, or, there's just so many different things. Go do some Facebook Lives and teach what you know. She teaches me, so every time I talk to her, I learn something new, Kate. And so, when this came down, she was in pure panic mode. And, but here's the fact, here's what really happened, is that she stepped back and she kind of like took the deep breath. First of all, it was the first time she ever got on Zoom in her life. She had never even been on Zoom. And so I was like, okay, well, I'm going to tell you how to get on Zoom. You're going to get your client on Zoom, and you're just going to have a conversation about how they're doing. Keep them engaged. Find out what supplements maybe that they're running low on, and is it working? And then she does some different testing where, like she does your analysis and all those kind of things. And so she called me the other day and she said, look, I have a client. She wants to see me again. It's time for her retesting. So she's going to do her sample. She's going to put it outside the garage in a bag. I'm going to run by and pick it up. I mean, like, that's thinking outside the box now, right? So,
absolutely.
Yeah, we just have to look at how do we do it differently.
So what I love about you, that's such a wonderful balance, is that, decisive is your word, right? I mean, you are come from there. And yet at the same time, you're extraordinarily nurturing. And and so you feel like you're in the warm embrace of somebody who is competent, that's knowledgeable, and is not going to lead you astray. That's just what you put out for vibe. That's just it in a nutshell. People trust you, right? And so we need people like you to help people like her and others. There's half the people that I interviewed on this podcast are people that may have never Zoomed. And I'm like, I'm going to show you how we're going to have a great interview. And they're like, no, right? But I'm like, nope, this is the new forum. Come with me. Follow
what's fun is that, Kate, you and I have been doing this. I know I've been doing it for 10 years. You may have been doing it longer than that. So, being in this online world, and, there are very few of my clients that live within 200 miles of me. And so, all of my coaching pretty much is done virtually through Zoom. It always has been. I do in-person events, but now we're just, we're scheduling and looking at doing virtual events. One of my clients who is a mindset coach, the delivery of her course is that 3 times a year, she brings all of her clients together and they do a big mastermind. We just did it last weekend on Zoom. And so after we finished it, I said, send them a survey, find out, did they like it? It was a struggle? What was it? And what was interesting was that the majority of them came back and said, hey, we kind of liked it because we could see who was talking, because the way the room's set up when we're all in the room, you're looking at the back of their heads. Right. And so, you just never quite know. Just my thing for you is let it go. This is an opportunity to look at, how can it not be the way you thought it had to be? How can it be different? Right?
Yep. So that's a wicked good point. And also I find that this is deeply intimate, because like really, truly, when are you really full front, face to face with somebody in a conversation, having, an open, intimate conversation like this? It's not very often. So I've been struck by the level of intimacy. I mean, granted, I'm a hugger and all that, so I'm like, no, it's like
some people want and need that physical interaction, and we're going to get back there. We're going to have it. The opportunity is to look at how to not go back exactly where you were. If I go back and I look at my friend who's the Zumba instructor, right? And she runs herself ragged, teaching 10 different Zumba classes all over town every single week. And she's, putting together 10 new thingies that they do every day, every week, because she wants something new. And so all of a sudden she said to me last week, she's like, I have never been so rested. Now, she's doing 3 Zumbas. She's doing, 6 feet apart Zumbas in her own gymnasium that's at her, she's got a big space at her house. So she's not having to travel around town for 10 different classes. They're coming to her, which she never believed would happen, by the way.
Yep, exactly.
You know, and so the conversation we were having was, how do you go back and do a few of those classes if you feel like you want to be in those spaces, but not let yourself go back into the craziness, right? And and how do we make up that money? It's real, and that's actually really simple to look at. How do you make up that money from things that you're not wanting to do?
Yeah, talk to us, because let's definitely talk about that. So how do you make the bridge from monetizing the new you? Like, as if you're coming through through this change, number one, how are you finding opportunity? And number two, how are you monetizing it? What does that look like?
Yeah, so, you know, a couple of things to look at. One of the things I'll just kind of pick on Peggy for a little bit with the Zumba instructor, right? Is that she's spent the last several years teaching in all these different spaces. The reason she was doing that was because she wasn't known as a Zumba instructor. Well, now she's got plenty of people who know who she is. So she has the opportunity at this point to go from being paid for that, to show up for that hour, where she's getting a flat rate to show up for that hour, to maybe she puts together a monthly, you know, what I told her to do is look at, would people pay you a monthly membership? You offer so many classes in your gym, and they have the opportunity to just come anytime they want. You have a consistent income. When we looked at that, it only required 10 people to say yes to make up the money she was missing by not going and doing those classes where she was before.
So then you helped her see that by running the numbers.
Correct.
Right.
That's
so
correct.
So what would be the steps that you would advise people to do that? Because a lot of people who are entrepreneurs are not super astute at that process.
Yes. Very good. Very good. So there's a couple of different ways to look at it. First of all, my first question is always, how much money are you bringing in from that particular activity? Guys, you need to be looking at the different activities you've got. You know, for me, myself, I have multiple businesses. I still have a business in the trucking industry. I have my coaching business. I teach Bible study. I have a network marketing business. I have a lot of different businesses, right? And so I know which ones are providing which amounts of revenue for my business. So for me, right? So the first thing I want you to do is look at what is the revenue that you would need to be replacing. Now, the second question is always, that's top line. What, you know, are there expenses that go along with that? So if I'll just round things off. If you're billing out $1,000 for whatever that is, but it's costing you $500 to actually supply it, and you've got a $500 profit, right? What do you need to make up? You only need to make up the $500 profit. So whatever we look at new needs to look at, if it doesn't have those massive expenses that the other one did, then how do we make up that profit? So, you know, for her, I think we needed to make up like $1,000. And it was, you know, how many people are willing to pay you $100 a month to be able to come? They can come do 20 classes or 3 classes, however many they want to come do. Maybe that would be 10, by the way. And, you know, if you wanted to charge them $50 a month, you just need to find 20 of them. That's all. So when I broke it down to those numbers and said, you know, for her in particular, in this particular instance, because she wasn't trying to make up a massive amount of money, she was like, you're telling me all I got to do is have 10 people say they want to come? I'm like, yeah, okay. I just cut out 10 different, not only was she teaching 10 hours of Zumba, which she loved, by the way, okay, like she loves teaching the Zumba, but each one of those was a drive. She had a drive between each one. She was going all over town doing that and spending a lot of time at night preparing for those classes. So, you know, by being able to do it at her home and still have people come. So the other thing to look at is, what is it about what you do that you love? One of the things I know about Kate is the same thing I know about Peggy, and that is they are people, and they want to be in the space with the person sometimes, maybe not all the time, but at least at a minimum, they got to be able to get their hug in every once in a while.
Yeah, true.
So, so we looked, you know, so because my first thought was, let's just make you go virtual. I'm going to tell you, I go take her Zumba classes twice a week, and I've been doing Zumba in my living room. And I'm like, why am I leaving my house to go do Zumba, right? So
Great point.
it's her though. I'll go back because it's her. But the fact is, when I first went to her and said, hey, why don't we talk about, let's get you virtual, because I can get you, a lot of people pay you money to do it with you online. And then I realized, oh yeah, I got to remember that some pieces need to pull in her desire to be able to be hugged in the middle of all of it.
To that real connection.
The real connection.
Exactly.
You know.
So where are you seeing opportunity, like in your business or in businesses? So if people say someone, you meeting someone, they lost their job, they've been working for a company for a while, like what would be your advice to those people about the process of potential reinvention?
Yes. So let's look at maybe some business owners. I've seen some really cool stuff, right? So hairdressers who all of a sudden couldn't, they've got to be physically within a couple inches of you, right? So they no longer could do that. And so watching these hairdressers start to put together color kits, which by the way, I really need to get one of those. That's something that can continue moving forward, because here's the hairdresser's issue. The hairdresser's issue is if they get injured, if they can't work for some reason, it don't matter what COVID-19 or not. If they can't work, they don't get paid, right? So they've got to, I know so many hairdressers, and I know that they're always in that conversation of what if something happened like this, and here we're sitting. So what are those opportunities? I saw a bakery who put together, they put together baking kits that you could purchase from them, and you could take it home and do, bake with the kids kind of thing. And it was the whole squeezy bags and the whole 9 yards, right? So
innovation. So it's being innovative. And I remembered like my accountant, I'd be like telling him something I'm really passionate about. And he goes, Katie, what's the product or the service? You have to know the product or the service. Right.
And where's the problem? If there's a problem, there's an answer. That's how kind of like I look at it all the time, right? There's opportunity surrounding us everywhere. So what is it that you're really good at? You're the tax accountant that works at the IRS, and all of a sudden you don't have a job. Then, you start doing some people's taxes or some books. What is it that you do so well and people are paying for? There's a lot of times when I talk about business growth, I talk about, in particular for entrepreneurs, if they want to expand their business, to look at what I call business laterals. And that is, what is it that your client is already paying someone else for that you can easily add on in your business? If I look back for us, so, when I don't know how many of these people know, but I was born into a family that had kids to guarantee they had employees. I mean, my grandfather started our businesses when my dad was 2. So they were well underway whenever I came along. And we had a grocery store, which led to, and it was way out in the country, which led to a wrecker service, because out in the country, when people would go in the ditch, they'd come get my grandfather because he had a tractor. And he'd pull them out.
Story.
And one day he went, oh, I should have a wrecker service, right? So he starts a wrecker service. One day the wrecker service happens to go out to pick up a big 18-wheeler on the side of the road, right? And that becomes, oh, we should be in the trucking business. So then we start a trucking company, right? We start this trucking company. We're in the trucking company for 10 years. We move on to this great yard that's not very far from one of our customers. And they are like, if you had a rail spur, we would let you offload our boxes there. So all of a sudden we install a rail spur, right? It's like, what's a rail spur? What's a rail spur? That's a railroad spur is where they build the railroad onto your property, and they'll back those big railroad containers. Train containers or whatever.
That's Texas. The New Englanders like, what's that?
Girl, I've done everything in this world. So
that is right. So I love that. So you're from a family of opportunists.
Right. We see opportunity in everything. I will say this as well, that my mother is the not opportunist. It was my dad and my brother and myself and my grandfather and everything. My mom's the one who keeps us all kind of level-headed, and says, you have to really research that opportunity, because, the other thing I say about my family is if we thought we could make a dime, we did it.
Yes.
So, opportunity is everywhere, people. Even in this time, I mean, I sat down the first 2 weeks and did nothing but make masks for 2 weeks, just sewing masks to, get my mind off of things. And, afterwards, my daughter's like, you should be selling these. These are awesome. So thank goodness I'm not going to continue to sew.
No, I know, right? That was good. But I think that finding those daily habits of those kinds of activities, if we look at that as actually super restorative, because I generally, like when I have a writing deadline, I drive people crazy. I read a bunch of things and then I'm baking cookies, I'm making soup. People are like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm fine. I got an hour and a half to the deadline. Then I go, boom, and I sit down and I type. But like using this fertile time, you picture the swamp, underneath that swamp water is actually really, really fertile stuff going on. So
exactly.
What are you
That's exactly right.
Yeah. So what are you incubating right now that is a possibility? And I would say a mentor or a coach or somebody that is going to hold you accountable to your highest and best is necessary. If I looked at my bottom line on what I spend on personal development, I don't regret up any of it.
Yeah,
and
me
it's
too.
always, because it's like your personal development lines up with your professional development.
Yeah.
You cannot be successful if you're not an authentic human being. People will not buy from you if you're not transparent. And you can't fake transparency.
Your friends and your siblings and your parents, they're not those people, right?
No.
Number one, they'll let you off the hook when they shouldn't. And number two, they just don't have the same vision necessarily that you have. So be real careful about that. It's very important to get the right kind of coaching. I'm like you. I've had so much coaching in my life. I regret none of it.
None of it. Even the ones that weren't that good. You know, it's like, I learned something from that.
I have my share of those.
Yeah, right. And it's like, now I know what I don't want. Yes. So what would be your suggestion? And this is just really off the cuff. How would you recommend that someone goes and finds a coach?
I think that, a couple of things. If there's there are coaches who are very specific, right? Like a mindset coach. If you're like really, you're clear that your head is holding you back, a mindset coach, right? So if it's something specific in your business, if it's a very specific thing you want to accomplish, is there a coach in that arena? Right. And then there are some coaches who, like, my clients come to me because I've sold businesses. We sold our trucking company. We sold our grocery store. My family retired. Right. That's how I got into coaching. And so I'm looking for a couple of things when I'm looking for coaches. Do I have a specific need, or do I have an overall, like, I want to develop it to sell it kind of thing? That's how I determine what type of coach I need. But after that, I'm looking for, number one, have they already done what I wanted to do? So if you want to sell your company, should you hire somebody who's never sold a company? I mean, hello,
people do.
They do.
People do. So I think that the most important thing, it's not just someone you like, but because oftentimes we'll make choices on what we like, but someone that actually probably you want to feel a little uncomfortable. Yeah. Because the relationship, that person should want more for you than you want for yourself.
That's exactly right.
It's going to feel weird. And it's also going to feel, potentially uncomfortable, because you're going to be asked things or be transparent about things that just because you're smart, you've had success previously, that you've kind of just blown a little smoke screen off areas that are limiting you.
Yeah. That's
and
right.
you don't even know
exactly right. Yeah, they have to hold your feet to the fire, right? If they don't, then they're the wrong coach. So, yeah.
True story. I love that. So, so thinking about, let's just go back to this one more time, if you don't mind. So we have people right now that are home that are freaking out or not, or they're enjoying their time, or a little of in between, like most of us. What would be the steps that you would recommend that someone, if they had this time to brainstorm, what would you recommend that they do?
Okay, so if they are, let's talk two sides. One is entrepreneur and one's not entrepreneur, right?
Yes,
So
thank you.
first, let's talk about what the entrepreneur should be doing. The entrepreneur, number one, needs to be stabilizing always, right? I mean, that's what they're probably thinking about at this point is how are they paying their bills? Where they need to take care of those things. And there are obviously things that can be done now. Credit card companies are working with people. Loan payments are working with people. There's ways to apply for money that, I don't even want to go into that. However, the bigger opportunity here is to look for two things. Number one, is there other opportunity I can provide to my current clients that I already have a relationship with? One of my friends is a website designer. He called all of his old clients and said, hey, let me get on your website and I'll put in your COVID-19 wording, right, of what you're doing about COVID-19.
Fantastic.
And so he did that, just kind of stay top of mind, right? And several of those clients said, oh, by the way, we need you to do this, this, and this while you're in there.
Perfect.
And he actually ended up making money. He went in to do it without that. And so what can you do differently? But here's the bigger thing I want you to look at is I want you to look at your opportunity right now to plan out what's going to be next. How are you coming out of this? What's it going to look like? Right? That's big. This is that time where we have all, we've got all those things as entrepreneurs where we're like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to fix this sales page. I'm going to, find out, I'm going to do this research. Go do it. You've got the time right now. You can come out of this really ready to go. Okay.
How do you track your ideas or your to-dos?
How do I
how do you track them? Your things.
Couple of things. Immediate things go on my calendar. I am a calendar girl. I live and breathe and die by my calendar. Yeah. And so if I know I've got to get this done, that goes a task on my calendar for today. If they don't get done today, they get moved to tomorrow. That's the super emergencies. The bigger plans, the bigger ideas, or someday I want to get to, I use Evernote, and Evernote, I just absolutely love Evernote. I've always used it. I've used it for probably 10 years. And I have a big idea note in Evernote, and I keep them in there with notes as I come across them. And every once in a while I'm like, oh my God, that was such a great idea 6 years ago I had, right?
Yes, exactly. I love how we circle around. That's the most wonderful thing. And maybe now is not the time for some really big idea, but plant the seed by writing it down. Yes. There's nothing more important that I talk about than visioning. What is it going to look like? What is it going to feel like when you're pushing through the fear, as you're pushing through? That's freaking awesome. All right. So if you could tell me now, business, if people are working for a company or were laid off, what would be your suggestion or some steps and strategies that they could approach it?
So a couple of things would be, I'm always looking at business. So if it's someone who's been thinking, hey, I want to do something extra, there's all kind of side gig opportunities, right? Are you a great writer? Are you, could you do some content for people? Are you really great at graphics? Some people out there are just super great at Photoshop or whatever. Maybe you use it in your regular business. Could that be something you could do? If you have never, I want to invite you, there's a site called Fiverr, Fiverr, Fiverr. And if you've never been on Fiverr,
spell it again.
Fiverr, and I think it's fiverr.com, but don't hold me to that part. But so Fiverr started out probably about 10 years ago as well as a site where people would go and they would offer to do things for $5. And it's really become the place where I go there if I need to find a graphic designer to do a logo for a client or, just to do create a business card or whatever. But originally I would go there just to see what people would be willing to do for $5 because it was crazy. But if you are just you're super talented in some form or fashion, some way on the computer, then go on Fiverr, create an account and offer to do that. If you are crafty, then sew stuff or do woodwork while you're down, while you've got this time, and
Right.
open an Etsy account and go sell it on Etsy, right?
I think that an important thing I think a lot of with my coaching clients, a lot of people are talented at something and they're like, well, everyone can do it. Right, Michelle?
Yes, I hear that all the time.
Right? So they don't think it's unique because they're like, because it's so natural.
Yeah.
So maybe those things, make a list of all the things you love to do. Keep a success list of things that you love to do. And maybe right now you're going to do it and you're not going to make money on it. You're adding value. You're serving. People are seeing what you're doing. They're watching you. I mean, I have a fitness background, so I'm like doing videos, hey, from the dungeon in my basement, right? Because people know me as fitness, even though I don't coach fitness. But it's like, well, how people know me. It's the athletic mindset. So doing whatever you can do to add value that's going to waken people up.
Yeah.
And offer service.
I agree. I agree. So there's always, there's a great saying, and I don't remember if it's a Chinese proverb or what it is, but there's a saying that is, to every fourth grader, the fifth grader is king.
Oh.
Remember that, right? Is that because we take our talents for granted? I'm also a big believer that God gave us specific gifts so that we would use those gifts to be, to better this world. So don't ever underestimate. I'm going to tell you something. I have a degree in accounting. So numbers to me are like the breeze. I love to play in the numbers, and my poor clients, they don't always love to play in the numbers. After they stay with me for a while, they do start to like the numbers.
Well, because you take the fear out of it and simplify it. And I think that because it's such a natural thing for you, that's an added bonus that you offer to your coaching, right? Yeah. So
it's been a real eye opener. I really didn't realize how many people didn't like the numbers. I thought everybody did because I did.
There it is.
So
gosh, that's so true, right? Yeah. And you're like, come on, like that's easy. Everyone's like,
and thus I've made a lot of money.
Right.
Knowing the numbers, right? Understanding the numbers.
That's so good. That's awesome. So I love that. So is there anything else that you would like to add? I'm so appreciating this time. I feel like we could just go on.
I think that I think the big opportunity here is to look at what is working and what is not working. If you are a full-time employee somewhere and you got laid off out of no control, you can't do anything about it right now, you might want to be thinking, what's my plan B? I'm not saying don't go back to your job, but I think that you should be looking at what's my side gig, what's my side hustle, how am I putting away money, whatever it is, in case something like this comes along again and you lose that job. I mean, the fact of the matter is, maybe we haven't had this COVID-19 situation before, but we've had crashes, a lot of them. My dad used to say, hey, about every 17 years, be waiting for the crash, right? And so, our economy goes up and down and these things happen. So you should be looking for your plan B. Do you want to do network marketing somewhere? Do you want to make, I don't know, sew something and sell it? Look at the opportunity. If you are in business, and what I would have you look at is, this is the opportunity to say, you know what, I've been doing that forever. And like that, number one, I don't want to do it that way anymore. Guess what? You don't have to. You can do it any way you want to do it. Maybe you're going to say, I don't even want to do that. And that's okay too.
It's true, because I have this, and I work with a lot of men, and I work with this one client, and he works in the hospitality business. And so I was talking to him yesterday. We had a coaching call on Sunday because we can. And basically what he was saying was, I'm really thinking that I got to go back and be a different manager. And he was going over logistics of like, what's right or wrong or what's wrong. I go, how about this? You look at how this situation happens. How are people going to be from a psychological and emotional perspective? And how are you going to be? Because it's up to you to decide that system now. Don't waste time, because if you think you're going to go back and be that same person in the same job when everything else, especially in hospitality, is different. This is time for reinvention. And I know it's frightening.
Yeah.
Michelle, you and I know it's frightening.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
know.
I know we got to go, Kate, but I was just reading a great article about how this is going to change like architecture, right? And how architects will start to think differently because maybe they need to design the way restaurants are built differently, or maybe they need to design hotels differently or whatever. I mean, this is going to change everything, every aspect of everything we know. And so the opportunity is to see where we are a year down the road, and if we're just back in the same old rat race, or if we've actually come out of this and done something really good. So that's what I hope for.
I say now is the time. And Michelle, you and I are making a commitment to each other in this moment that we are here to be change agents.
That's exactly right.
Light people up and to help them live their highest and best. By the millions, let's go, girl.
Awesome. You got it.
Awesome. Well, Michelle, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Kate, for inviting me.
It's really been an honor. Thank you so much. And thank you, viewers, again for joining Survive to Thrive. I'm Kate McKay, and I'll see you again next time.